Bikes have been the biggest part of my life since I can remember. And as a kid, trials was absolutely everything to me. Every day after school, every weekend with my dad, that's what we did. It's all I knew, and it was all I wanted to do. But it wasn't until I was a teenager that mountain bikes were actually invented. 15 gears, a triple chainring on the front, cantilever brakes, big tyres. I mean, you know, it was rubbish, but it was a mountain bike, and it gave me independence for the first time in my life. It was 1995 when I got my first, what you would call, proper professional ride, and you know, it should have been the best thing to ever happen to me, but it was just such a bad experience, so disorganised, so dishonest, that actually it was one of the worst things I'd ever been through in my life. But then things moved on, and a year after that, mountain biking really started to take shape for me. I was racing on TV nearly every weekend. I was being flown to California to develop bikes. I was teammates with John Tomac, and we partied so hard. But that was the rock and roll lifestyle I was here for. I remember getting towards the end of the season, and I'd done all right, but in the back of my mind, I knew that I had to deliver. And I was stressing. There was just 2 races left. I hadn't had a result. I wasn't going to have a job, and I didn't want this lifestyle to end. When you love a rock and roll lifestyle, you know you're not going to get it any other way than the way you're doing it, then you're going to fight to keep it. And all I ever wanted was to just be like the best at a sport for one day, the very best in the world just once. And that day did come for me in Capron. And all right, it did rain, but I had the result. All winter, I was getting a bit of ag about it. People were giving me grief over it, other riders. I mean, you know, kind of all in jest, but I knew it. And I knew I had to prove that I'd earned it. But the following year in '97 would be the best I'd ever ride a mountain bike. And it was all fueled by anger. Absolute rage and anger. You know, I wouldn't be able to sit here now and look back at my career with any kind of pride without that year. That was the only year I was good at mountain biking. If I hadn't had that year, I would have felt like I was a failure at it. So to me, it's really important that I did make that happen. It was my way of saying, yeah, I might have got lucky that day, but I was definitely good enough to win a World Cup. You know, and on a personal level, that was the end of it. And everything changed for me in '99 when the TV went away. The crowds disappeared. Everything that I'd been into the sport for, the accolade, the partying, the good times, the atmosphere, you know, that feeling of having the crowd yelling, that was all gone. And the pressure to deliver without all that just became incredibly negative for me, and it really sucked to be at the races. I absolutely hated it. It was like the worst place to be. I didn't enjoy it. I'd done it. I'd won a World Cup. History's always going to tell that story. And from the moment the TV went, you know, I was purely in it for the money. I was only in it for the money. That was it. And I had 8 years where I was just turning up at the races, hating it, hating life. And it was a pretty miserable place to be because I just wasn't into it anymore. You know, not really. I remember my last ever race. It was Vigo 2006, and I didn't qualify. I didn't qualify because I'd gone too slow, and that was it. I never went back to a World Cup. I was 36 years old. I'd had a pretty good mountain bike career. I'd made good money for quite a long time. But now, all of a sudden, I had no job, no qualifications, nothing. And I was waiting for the next thing in life. I was waiting for it to come to me. And it usually does. SHIMANO had become invisible after the TV left. I mean, it was gone. I hate to say it, but without telly, it's nothing. I mean, what sport is? Freecaster was very much the start of the road back to where we are now. I mean, it gave mountain biking its audience back. And purely by being in the right place at the right time, I got asked to commentate on the Mountain Bike World Cup. And you know, being the opportunist that I am, I grabbed it with both hands. It wasn't much money, but it wasn't about that. I was going back to the races, and that's what mattered. Heading into that first Freecaster broadcast, I remember that I didn't sleep. You know, I'd never done anything remotely like this, let alone on this level. And laying there awake, all I could think was, tomorrow I'm hosting a Mountain Bike World Cup and I have no idea what I'm doing. None. It was absolutely terrifying, and of course, you know, if there's one way I know to settle the nerves, it's to drink. It was broadcasting on another level, and you know, the reaction to that first ever race I commentated on, well, I'd never felt like that. It was like winning a World Cup. It was that good. The things I used to say, the things I'd get away with, but it was like the early days of internet broadcasting, so I got away with it. The drinking, the swearing, the one-liners, I mean, there were absolutely no given. And it was, you know, it was the beginning of something new. Look where it's gone. It was a new era, and you know, it was exciting. We'd had the 90s, we'd had that golden era. We were starting a fresh era, and what an incredible thing to have been a part of. You know, and by luck I was there, but I'm so proud to have been a part of that era. When Red Bull took over in 2012, I was a mess really. I was sort of drinking lots still to get through a commentary. I remember walking into an office where this guy Chris was sat, and he said to me, "Have you ever been trained as a commentator?" And I actually burst out laughing. I was like, "Really? I'm pretty good, mate. Have you read the Pink Bike comments?" And that's when they sent me to commentary school, which has to be one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever done in my life. Alone in a room with a bloke who's basically a shrink. The whole time I was trying to work out whether he was there to teach me commentary or work out what the hell was going on in my head. And for 3 to 4 hours at a time, he would literally tear me a new one. And it was stressful. You know, I had this bloke telling me how to do my job, which I thought I was the bee's knees at, and I used to come home in a bad mood and kick doors and be like, what the hell is he on about? I was convinced he was wrong, and I couldn't deal with that. You know, it was weird. I hated it. I hated it. I hated every second of it. All my life, I felt like a failure till I did this. Yeah, I could ride a bike fast here and there, but I always had this doubt in the back of my mind. It's taken everything I've got to become the commentator that I am for Red Bull today. But what a privilege it is. You're building a soundtrack to some of the most spectacular sporting moments on the planet, and you know, that's incredible. Yeah, it's incredible. It's a funny old place to be, the World Cup. It's great when you're winning, there's no better place to be, but it's the loneliest place on earth when you're doing bad. And after 2006, I got rid of everything, every bicycle, and just rode motorbikes. I was done with it. I absolutely hated it. I detested mountain biking. You know, it was done for me, and that was that. I didn't ride again until 2012 when Max Commensal asked me to do a video for him for the British market in exchange for a couple of bikes. So I did it and enjoyed it, and that actually was the start of me getting back into mountain biking. And it was it was weird getting back into it at the start because it wasn't for the same reasons that I'd started mountain biking. I wasn't really riding around where I lived. I wasn't interested in pedaling whatsoever. So I just used uplifts and rode bike parks, and you know, of course, that was quite limiting. Very different to how I'd started mountain biking. The bikes have changed so much. I mean, you know, compared to what I'd started riding on. And then some genius strapped an engine onto one, and that was it. I was hooked. Of course, I'd read about them, I'd heard about them. I'd also heard what people say about the people that ride them. But the moment I got on one, I fell in love with mountain biking again. Suddenly I could explore more, I could go further, I could see more, I didn't have to shy away from big climbs, and that's the reason I fell in love with mountain biking all those years ago. Of course, I'm older now, not as fit, I'm not as strong as I was, but you know, I'm enjoying riding again without the stress of World Cup racing, which really spoiled mountain biking for me. It did. You know, I'm done with all that and I'm out the other side, and I can enjoy mountain biking again now like I did the first time round, like I'm a kid again. That's how it feels. You know, when you retire as a professional downhiller, then it does become quite hard to stay relevant within the sport. You know, I'm not going to release a video of me doing backflips and 540 tail whips, but with an e-bike I can actually do things that are interesting. I can go on adventures that I would never go on before, go places that I wouldn't have dreamed of, and I can create content that proves, you know, you don't need to be in your early 20s to still enjoy mountain biking. The solitude, the training, the fitness, the nature, it's allowed me to access all of that again. And this time, it's even better. It's bigger, I go further, it's faster. You know, mountain biking is almost perfect right now. I mean, look what it's done to me. I never thought I'd be making a video about riding bikes uphill, that's for sure.